Hello again, everybody. It is time for another episode of Michael's Record Collection, where we talk about great music with the people who make it and with the people who love it. I'm talking today with somebody who makes great music, Nick DiVirgilio, returning to the program. Thank you so much for coming back, Nick.
Thank you for having me. This is great. Appreciate it.
We're going to talk a little bit of Rewiring Genesis today, the tribute that you've done for The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. You originally put this out in 2008 and re-releasing it here in November. Very excited to talk that with you and to find out what all you've done to it since 2008. I know last time we talked about your first favorite record being Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti album, so we've already covered that territory, and we could we could jump in. I want to jump into your love of Genesis and where that started, and specifically what is it about the Lamb that really captures our imagination or captures your imagination? I mean, is it the this mysterious opaque storyline? Is it the music? Is it the combination of the two things? What do you think it is?
Well, God, it's a little bit of everything for me, especially as I'm an older person now and I've grown up and lived the music. Now I'm touring with Steve Hackett playing the music. It's like it's and making this tribute record. It's a lot of really cool songs. Now I've heard them interviewed a bunch of times, especially now since the anniversary's around and they've gotten back together and talked about some stuff and they like certain songs better than others, which I totally get that. But to me, it's really cool songwriting. Their musicianship was on fire back when they were young kids back making those records. They were just on fire. Peter's vocals are killer. Um, Phil's playing such great drums. It just sort of feeds that prog progressive rock appetite in all aspects. It's got the crazy story and all that sort of thing. There's great instrumental sections. It's very emotional. It goes up and down and all over the place. There's beautiful, very light sections, plus the heavy stuff and the technical stuff. It just really checks all the boxes for me.
Was a big year for The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. They just came out even though it came out in 74, it's the 50th anniversary box set deluxe edition came out on vinyl and CD from the band this year. I believe you had some involvement also with Dave Kersner's tribute that came out earlier this year.
Yeah, it's a lot of Lamb stuff just being piled on everybody this year.
A lot of
And
Lamb.
Steve's touring too, so it's a bunch. And he put out his live record that has all of it on there. So there's a lot. Yeah.
Is The Lamb your favorite Genesis album?
It's right up there. I think Selling England is still my favorite. But it's a close second for sure.
So let's
I
go
mean, I
back
love
to
it all. I do. I love it all. But I mean, if I had to pick two, it'd probably be those two.
yeah, two pretty good ones to pick.
Yeah.
You let's go back to the beginning before you put out the Rewiring Genesis in 2008 to start with. Some people don't know the story, so why don't you tell me and tell my audience what prompted this reimagining of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway?
Um, well, if you talk to my friend Mark Hornsby, who's my partner on making this record, we differ a little bit on how the exact starting point came to be because I think we were both a little bit drunk. But we were at the NAMM show, which is a big music convention held every year in Los Angeles for music industry stuff. And we were hanging out, drinking some wine after one of the evenings and stuff. And Mark is a longtime recording engineer. I've made just tons of records with him and tons of songs. And in our buzzed state, he's a prog head in his own way. He goes, "What if we uh, cut? We if we I think it was this. What if we recorded the Colony of Slipperman like in a bluegrass style?" Or he said, I think he said bluegrass. He just said he thinks he said country, but because he was living in Nashville and making all kinds of country music, and for somehow, however that worked out, we agreed that we should try this because he had his own studio there and friends that said yes, to this crazy thing. And so we got together with a friend of ours named John Hinchy, who is a trombone player and a music arranger. And he's a really excellent one. He really knows all those instruments inside and out. And he took on the task of arranging Slipperman, which is one of the craziest numbers on the record. And he charted out the whole thing, wrote all the, put it all to sheet music, and then sort of thought about parts that we could split out to have different instruments play. And that was the whole beginning of it all. So when we got together to do that, we got together with a group of musicians in Nashville, where Mark's studio was, and only a handful of us knew the Lamb. Our guitar player, Don Carr, who's playing guitar on the whole record, John, myself, and Mark, and the bass player, Dave Martin, who played on it, sort of knew it, maybe heard it a couple times, but wasn't a big fan. Everybody else that came in on the session knew Genesis, but they thought that was Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight and, you know, uh, all the other things
Invisible
that were the
Touch.
pop Genesis, not the
Yeah.
prog Genesis. But that's what made it all so cool. They basically just saw this sheet music and did their Nashville thing and read the chart. And it turned out way better than Mark and I ever imagined. Like, wow, this is really cool. The accordion playing the synthesizer solo on accordion, these
Hmm.
kinds of things. Taking away all the synth parts, but making them play either by horns or just acoustic piano. So we basically kind of acoustified the song rather and took away the synths, kind of. And that was the beginning of it all. And having these players who were just interpreting the music, not really knowing it like a fan, gave it this sort of really fresh sound and feel, and we jazzed it up a little bit, and we just had some fun with it. It turned out so well that Mark and I thought, well, why don't we try to tackle the whole record?
That's quite an undertaking, as you as you're well aware,
Yeah,
uh, putting this thing together. Now, did all of the songs end up being done that way? You charted them out and had musicians play them?
yeah. Yeah, it was quite a thing. So John Hinchy gets the award for this task. I mean, he knows how to use this program called Sibelius, so he can put everything in there. And he's a real expert at knowing the exact ranges of what a clarinet can do, opposed to a trombone and a trumpet and this and that and the other. And he really, just mapped out everything for these different instruments. And these players that came in were like the top session players in Nashville. And they read charts every day. Much simpler music, but maybe not always. Maybe it could be hard stuff. They just looked at this music, and the hard parts, the rhythmic parts that they had to read, they nailed it, you know. And it was amazing to feel. And so we would come in, they would listen to the track we were going to interpret. They'd go, "Oh, that's cool," and then we went in and just played it. And some are closer to the record than others, just with the instrument changes. And then some we took a little more, so a few more liberties with.
Mm-hmm. What I think is interesting about the album is how you did this magnificent job of walking this line between creating some new flavors and new vibes within the Lamb while remaining true to the source material, like showing the proper respect to the source material. You're not going to
Totally.
listen to this song and go, "What is this song?" And it takes you 2 minutes to figure out it's Hairless Heart. You know it's Hairless Heart. It's like you
Right.
can tell right away.
Right. That's a great one. That's a great example of where it sort of sounds like it's being done in a smoky, dark, dimly lit jazz club,
Yeah, I
as
wrote that
opposed
down.
to as opposed to the big string, Mellotron strings and stuff. And it works. It works great that way.
Yeah,
And that just goes back to the songwriting, that where the song came from. It's really cool, great melodic. It's a really just beautiful piece of music.
yeah. You nailed what I said. What I had written down was that the second half of the song sounds like it's this jazz. It's got this jazz lounge piano feel to it, and then
Yeah.
you go into Counting Out Time, which you go full on New Orleans brass jazz.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites on the record, the way that one turned out.
So how did obviously you didn't just like go in and record with these Nashville musicians and then the jazz came out of that. Like, how did you know how much to tinkering to do and how much was added after the initial recording?
Well, a lot of that kind of came in the moment in the sessions. When we got to that point in the song, if I think I'm remembering it pretty closely and correctly. But I think it was Dave, the bass player, suggested that we try to second line jazz that little bridge section, just to make it, to kind of jump out, because it's fun. It's funny and quirky on the record, on the original anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and then when we tried it a couple times, and we just kind of laughed and thought it sounded great, and you know, and went with it.
Were there any of the songs that were harder than others or particularly difficult to figure out what you were going to do differently with them? Like I would think, and maybe this wasn't the case, I would think that something like the waiting room, which came out of a just a natural jam, might be hard to replicate in terms
Yeah.
of making it different, putting a different spin on it.
Yeah. That one, like that whole noise section in the beginning came from our friend Jimmy Blankenship, who just was messing around with something. Like we didn't know what to do. Same goes for the beginning of Slipperman, all the weird sounds before the song actually starts. We were just experimenting and putting in some samples and recording street noise and just, yeah, messing around to see what we could come up with. The breaking glass sound and all of this kind of crazy stuff. So it could be sort of close, but not the exact same thing either. Those were trippy things to make up.
Yeah.
Um, there's a couple spots on the record that I wasn't around for, like the Silent Sorrow and Empty Boats. That little piece after Lamia was John Hinchy and Mark Hornsby getting together with some of the string players and singers to come up with this really beautiful. Some of the way they interpreted the music there, I saw they're beautiful. The little transition between In the Cage and Grand Parade, they really nailed those things to me, I think, in a great way. So we really tried to get all the little spots, even the little transition pieces
Mhm.
throughout the record.
So let's go back to 2008. What have you changed for the new release November 28th from the original? I know you've done some things with orchestra.
Yeah, well, Mark was able to. We had a session at Abbey Road for some other projects, DPA microphones, and some collaborations with some gear companies. And he had I forget how many pieces the orchestra was, but it was pretty big. Record In the Cage. So all the strings for the song In the Cage are the London Philharmonic, basically. Yeah, and oh my God, I'll never forget being there in Studio One. I mean, this is like the room that all the Star Wars music and Lord of the Rings music is recorded in. I mean, it's iconic stuff. The Beatles
Sure.
room is just right next door where all that's yeah, it's crazy to be in that studio. And it was just, I don't know, it was mind blowing to hear that music come out of those players. And again, it was just charts that John Hinchy came up with. He wrote the whole orchestra. He arranged for the whole orchestra. It's amazing. That's a whole other world of knowledge in music that I kind of understand, but you have to be a real expert to do it. Um, yeah, so there's that. Um, I redid the drum track on Riding the Scree because I never really liked how I played it the first time around. Um, I studied Phil's part more and I played it closer to Phil's part than what I did before. I think it's just better. Phil's part is that's a weird song. It's a weird drum part. Um, it's one of those things like it's almost like Apocalypse in 9/8 where he's not really playing with the bass, he's playing with the other instruments around the bass part and stuff. But it fits. So I redid the drums for that. Mark remixed a number of the tracks just because we thought it could be better. Didn't
Hmm.
really re-record anything, but remixed. Um, all the vocals are the same. The remastered it to clean it up too. So there's a little bit of re-recording, there's the strings, and a little bit of remixing and remastering.
Well, I feel like whatever you guys did and the totality of what you guys did, I feel like the production is very high on this. I feel like you really did a great job of cleaning it up from the original. Not that the original was bad. It just there's so much more. You feel the space more, and you can feel the textures of the different instruments better, especially the
Yeah.
strings.
Well, it's been all this time now from making it, not listening to it, going back to it, and diving into it again, like with a clear head, that
Yeah.
kind of thing too. So that helped.
So one guy who's not a stranger to reimagining Genesis's old works is a guy who used to be in Genesis, Steve Hackett,
Yeah.
and you got him to do parts on this. How did that go? And is it weird asking a guy to play parts on a tribute to an album he was on?
Yeah, it was weird, but he's just a super cool guy, you know. Listen, this is one of those things where I've grown up as a kid where Genesis was my favorite band and all of that kind of stuff and playing to their records all day long as a kid. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be in his band or in one of the guys' band or playing with Genesis in the first place when I recorded with the other guys. I mean,
Right.
mind-blowing sort of stuff that I never expected. But then over the years, since we're all in the sort of prog world, I met him and then I recorded for him a little bit and then I was able to do that short little tour in the US in 2022 where I subbed for Craig Blundell for like 10 days or whatever. And we just kind of hung out more and got to know each other better and that kind of stuff. And when I asked him, he just said yes right away. I don't, I wouldn't have pushed him. If he would have said no, I'd rather, I don't feel comfortable or whatever. I would have totally understood that. But he said yes, and I sent him the tracks, and he did it and sent them back, and there you go.
There you go. How many tracks was he on?
He did Fly on a Windshield and Broadway Melody.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, one would think, the natural one would be Hairless Heart, but you did some different things with Hairless Heart.
And I mean, I think I maybe, we probably asked him for that too. I don't exactly remember, but I didn't want to push it, you
Yeah.
know. Fly on a Windshield is a classic Hackett guitar solo on that record. So
Yeah.
I thought it was a good one and it's heavy, it's big and all that kind of stuff. So it worked.
I'm glad you brought up the fact that you were on a Genesis album. It brings me back to the question I asked you earlier about what was your favorite Genesis record, because that was a trap question, Nick. I was trying to get you to say Calling All Stations.
Listen,
But
man, it's cool. Um, the my name is on a Genesis record. I'll still blows my mind that my name is associated with any Genesis record. So it was a cool experience. It's a cool record for sure. I mean, all the early records are the what that made me want to be a musician. You know, it's just that was what inspired me so much as a kid. So that's why those are my favorite. Those early things, um, all that stuff. Yeah.
of all the songs on this reimagining of the Lamb, do you have one that you're particularly fond of? One that really sticks out as something you're like, yeah, I think we really nailed that one.
Well, I still think Slipperman is probably my favorite piece on there because it was the first one. It was the thing that drove the whole thing, and I think we really nailed it in a good way. I love what we did with Counting Out Time. I like my a cappella version of Grand Parade. I think is really cool. There's a bunch. In the Cage is fun with the strings. It's big. It's got that thing. Such an iconic song. Um, yeah, that's those kinds of things.
Well,
Lammy is great too. I mean, there's some fun bits.
you're hitting all my notes, because I was going to ask you about the Grand Parade. It is, like you said, it's practically a cappella. It does have percussion in it, but
I did that on purpose, by the way. Yeah.
yeah, what was the was how was that? How did that come about? You're listening to this thing, obviously, and you're thinking, what can we do with it? And you're like, well, it's just going to be all voice.
I forget what was inspiring me to do it at that point back in 2007 or whatever. I was listening to something that was a cappella and I can't remember what it was, voice related. And I was at home messing around on Pro Tools one day and we were, recording the songs and I was by myself and I just thought I'd try it out and see if I could come up with maybe just a way of covering the keyboard part with just the voice, how would it sound, and then sing so it was just an experiment. And
Yeah.
after working on it for I don't know a week or two, I go, man, I think this really could. Let's try it, and it worked. Yeah, it was one of those fun experiments to just to see if we could do something different. And it's a quirky song, so I thought it fit. I don't think I'd do it maybe with any of the other tracks. That one seemed to work with the acapella version.
Yeah. Were all the voices yours, or were there some additional voices?
Mostly, the Kat Bowser, who is one of the background vocalists on the record, she helped on that one as well.
And then she helps you out on some of the side two stuff, a couple of the songs
Sure,
as
yeah,
well.
she's on a lot of it throughout the record. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, one of the things that I think is cool about this is there's these little Easter eggs that, if you're paying attention, really pay off and bring a smile to your face. One of the things that, right from the beginning, right from the first track, was these little horn nods to the George Benson song on Broadway
Yeah.
as the song is fading out. I mean, you were Mark was the guy doing the orchestration, but you had I'm assuming you had the horn guys there in Nashville. Was that organic? Did it something that somebody
I don't
suggested?
remember because I don't think I was at that session, to be honest with you. So I can't really answer that. It was probably maybe a little bit of both. I mean, John Hinchy was pretty deliberate writing these parts out. I think it was just a fun thing to throw in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to give I don't know if you have this on your notes for questions or not, but while I'm doing these interviews and trying to promote this record again, I want to give a big shout out to Don Carr, who's the main guitarist throughout the whole record, because he worked his ass off learning these parts and giving it his own special flavor. His
mhm,
guitar solo on Supernatural Anesthetist to me is really great. There's a little nod to Brian May in the middle of that one too, the way they harmonize guitars for just one little second, and the guitars are panning back and forth. He worked so hard learning all of those things and all of those songs. He deserves a big pat on the back for a great job, I think.
yeah, absolutely. Happy to give Don a shout out for that because his work's great.
Yeah.
How long did this take start to finish to put together? You were probably working on other things also in
Yeah.
between, so I imagine this took quite a while to put together.
It did, but it didn't. I think if I remember correctly, it was like once we got the all the parts sort of down, the mixing process wasn't so long. I can't give you a real specific answer because it was, God, 17 years ago seems like a lifetime ago. It does and it doesn't, right? It wasn't a ton of time. I mean, because we had other projects and we had to kind of finish this so we could get the other things that were actually paying us money. So uh, it didn't take forever. We definitely spent enough time on it, but it didn't take that long.
Okay.
Yeah.
The obvious question would be, is there ever a chance this will maybe be performed live? But I can't imagine it would be easy to do.
Well, we did it. We did it once in 2000. When was that show? Maybe it was around 2008 when it first came out. We performed it once in California with the whole thing, with the horn players that played on the record and the whole nine yards. And Jimmy Keegan, who was playing in Spock's Beard with me, played drums, and Don and Dave and everybody on the record. Yeah, it was quite a thing to pull off. But yes, and it was okay. We only rehearsed for a couple days. They read the charts. It turned out, for what it was cool. The fact that we even tried it, to be honest with you, and got through some of the harder songs like Riding the Scree and all of those things. Um, but yes, I have a super big desire to perform this with the orchestra in the Netherlands. Oh my God, I'm spacing on the name right now. Oh, hold on. There's a great orchestra. Jeez, I'm gonna Google it while I'm talking to you.
Okay, fine.
I would love to perform this one more time. You know, the the Metro the Metropole Orchestra. Oh my God. Okay. There's an orchestra in the Netherlands um, that is does has done a lot of rock shows,
Mhm.
and they kind of know that world. They play they've done all kinds of stuff. Mike Keneally's played there, but and done a bunch of Frank Zappa stuff. So they kind of know how to play progressive rock and other things like that. And that would be a great place to do it because I could have the orchestra around. But I hope so. I think this would be a great thing to do on Cruise to the Edge too. Would be kind of fun place to do this.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if I could ever pull that off. So we'll see.
you have to
It's
have a
out
big
there.
stage.
I'd love to try it, if nothing else, you know.
Morse Fest, maybe.
Morse Fest would be that cool. Why not?
They have all the horns and strings already.
Yeah, could be a good idea for sure.
So how's that going? I know you and Neil don't have a lot of time to work together, but I know you've done some things with him, obviously with DiVirgilio, Morrison Jennings, and
Yeah,
have been in his several of his Morse Fest, or at least
yeah.
more than one. How are things going with you and Neil?
Good. I think he's going to come to the Nashville show for Steve Hackett. Would be good. I'll see him then. He just had his latest Morse Fest. I don't know how he keeps it all together, to be quite honest with you. Putting those things together once because we just did the last one. It seems like it was just a few months ago, but it was last year. But I mean, it was the way he has things organized is amazing. So
Yeah.
there's already talk we about doing a third DMJ record. I know Ross has put out a few demos already. I just haven't had the time to. I mean, I have a lot of work in progress pieces that would go towards that. So it's just a matter of finding the time to get it together. I think it's a great project, and I definitely look forward to doing another record with those guys.
Yeah, I'm sure your fans would like to have it. How about Big Big Train? What's next for BBT?
That's big for us. So our next record is completed. It'll be out in February. I forget the release date. I don't know if it's been announced, but it's coming out in February, um, right before the cruise.
Hmm.
We're very excited about this next record. It's gonna be, I think it's gonna be one of our best yet. So that's coming up. There's announcements, and the first single's coming out sometime in November, I believe. So don't quote me on that yet, but it's all happening. The record's done, and we're super excited about this next step in the band's uh, trajectory.
Yeah. Well, as you should be. I think Big Big Train is caught fire. I think a lot of people are riding the Big Big Train.
Nice. I think people are gonna dig this next record. I really do. I think it's gonna check a lot of boxes.
I had Gregory on after the last one. He was great. So
Yeah.
definitely like to talk to you guys about the next one as well. So
Sure, anytime, man. You bet.
rewiring Genesis, a tribute to Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Nick, do you have any real expectations, or was this just something you needed to do as a labor of love?
Yes. Yes. I just wanted it to get back out there. I mean, really, I'm happy that you're taking the time to give me a little publicity here, turn some people onto it. I don't expect this to be a gangbuster. I mean, I'd love for as many people as possible to check it out because I think it's entertaining, and I hope they dig, especially if they like Genesis. But really, since it sort of just it sat on the shelf for so long. We were getting requests to where can we find it, and I was just happy that I could convince Mark to put the time back in so we can clean this thing up and just so it can live on, if nothing else. And people, when they feel so inclined, they could put it on and enjoy the music.
So this is going to be available digitally, double CD release, and a two
Yeah,
LP
yeah,
gatefold
I'm really
sleeve.
excited about the vinyl.
Yeah.
I love records, and to have it be released like in that format, I'm super excited about.
Where's the best place for people to buy this album from you?
You Well, just go online. It'll be either Burning Shed in Europe or Bandwagon USA for the States and North America, that kind of thing. And then it'll be streaming everywhere and all the normal those kinds of places as well. And I believe it'll be on Amazon and sort of just. I'm not sure if it'll be in physical stores. We'll see how that goes. But there's not many physical stores around for well, I shouldn't say that. There's more and more these days, especially if you like vinyl. But Burning Shed and Bandwagon will be two great places to go because they're really good, fast at shipping stuff. They're not too expensive when they ship records and things like that. So it's a good place to buy music.
I've sent a lot of my money to both of those places. So,
There you go. Or you can
before,
buy it on my Bandcamp page too. So there'll be that place if you want to support and download music, download high res downloads and all of those things.
yeah. One last thing I wanted to ask you about was the cover art. When you get done with this thing and you go, oh no, now I've got to put it out. How do you select what you're going to do with the cover, and sort of tie it back into the original?
Well, we got together with the original guy, Eric Anderson, who made the original artwork. And, I didn't want it to be the exact same thing. I thought we should at least do something to soup it up a little bit, just to so it differentiates itself from the original. And that's Jason. I just said, Eric, what can you do? And that's kind of and what you see is what he came back with. So it still has the original pictures, but with a different color scheme, and it's white, which is more like the original or the Genesis original. So it sort of ties into that a little bit. Um, yeah, so that was kind of Eric's brain working to be creative.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. The album is Rewiring Genesis, a tribute to The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Comes out November 28th. Go buy it. If you're a Genesis fan, if you're a Nick DiVirgilio fan, can't recommend it highly enough. Some people don't do tribute albums, and some people only like them if you do something different. This is one that you can buy if you like the original, but also if you like something different, because like I said, I think it walks that line and keeps the original spirit of everything while at the same time giving you some new flavors. Like we already talked about the acapella version of Grand Parade and the jazzy stuff and the accordion in Slipperman. It all just works. So go pick it up. And Nick, thank you so much for coming back on the show. Appreciate it. And I'd love to have you back again in the future to talk about all the many projects you're involved with.
Awesome, man. Anytime. Thank you so much.